This is another update video. I have a recording session coming up on Friday, which by the time you're watching this is probably tomorrow. And uh, uh, First of all, you may have noticed I've veered away from the clickbaity titles and putting the word Armenian or Armenia in the titles, um, and that's by design. Every facet of this takes time, and my schedule is filling up, but I've got my viewership and it continues to increase, and it's up to you to share. And some people unsubscribe because I'm no longer talking about Artsakh and what's going on in Armenia right now. And I will do those periodically, but I want to just update you on what I'm doing, what's going on. And so this Friday, which by the time you're watching this is tomorrow, or maybe today, or maybe yesterday, depending on when you watch it, I'm having my first recording session with my astrophysicist friend, and I just want to give you a brief heads up on what we're going to be discussing, a little advanced notice, because even though we're recording on Friday, those won't be posted for several weeks yet. Um, but we're going to be talking about how we met. And how did we meet? It's through this script. It's called Blue Hope. That should be in quotes, but by me. And that's my name. There you have it. So those of you who don't know who I am, or now you can find me. But this is the title page of the script. I'm going to scroll past. I'm going to edit that out because that showed my address and my phone number and my email address, which I don't want. But this is a screenplay that I wrote several years ago. It's sci-fi. I started out trying to be very high concept and low budget, which is what all new coming Hollywood screenwriters are encouraged to do, because the likelihood of you selling your project is extremely low unless you can come up with something really interesting that costs no money. That's the only way to break in if you're not already connected. And that was me. And I'm sort of connected now, but I'm still not an accredited screenwriter, or, I won an Emmy, but that's for TV, somebody else's project that I worked on. But I was teaching myself how to write screenplays. So I wrote this sci-fi screenplay, and let me just read this beginning part, and it'll make sense why I met this astrophysicist as a result. So it starts with a black screen, and the titles fade in. It's superimposed, and so these are words that will appear on the screen. Every 32.5 million years, the solar system passes through a gravity field as it orbits the galaxy. This field draws hundreds of millions of asteroids into the path of the sun and the planets that orbit her. All right, so I start off the screenplay with a piece of scientific data, like astrophysical data. This is fact. A lot of people think the words galaxy, solar system, and universe are synonymous. Like, no, those are separate things. We just know the Earth rotates and orbits the sun, while the sun, which is the center of the solar system, also rotates and orbits something else. So the planets are going around the sun and rotating and orbiting, and then the solar system is going around something else. What is it? The solar system orbits an arm of the galaxy. And so the galaxy is the collection of stars. So we're not just going around the sun, but the sun is moving through the universe, through the galaxy, orbiting one of the arms. And so we're just kind of trailing along, following the gravity of the sun, and it goes through. There's this plane, a gravity plane. Sorry for all of you, but there's a plane. There's a name for it. I forget the name for it. But when the sun goes through that plane, it's a gravity field, and it draws asteroids into the solar system from the surrounding galaxy. And those asteroids are what's responsible for about 65 million years ago destroying the dinosaurs, and then about 32.5 million years ago another kind of extinction level event. Those are asteroids. Every now and then one of them comes into contact with the planets in the solar system, Earth being one of them. I could go into all kinds of data about why Jupiter is positioned perfectly to protect the Earth from most of those asteroids, because it has a huge gravitational pull, and most of those asteroids hit the Jupiter, which protect the Earth. And then there's the moon is the result of one of those asteroids, and all these things that I won't go into detail, but we have an incredible life-sustaining planet that we live on. So I wrote this screenplay based on my science enthusiasm, and it's a combination. I would describe it as a combination of the movies Gravity, Interstellar, and Passengers. If you don't know those movies, there are elements of my script that cover all three of those films. Or there's a lot of scientific tropes that are common in a lot of films, and so I wrote this script, and I'm like, well, I want to get it peer reviewed. I want to get a scientist, an astrophysicist, to read this script and see if, just correct my science, because I tend toward scientific fact in my science fiction, whereas some films tend toward science fiction fiction. Like Star Wars would be an example of science fiction fiction. It's this fantasy world, or here's a good example: Interstellar is fictional, more fictionalized than, say, The Martian. That's more fact based. There's a few embellishments in The Martian to make it interesting, but it's pretty close to what the facts of science, even though it's a fictional story. So mine, I want it to be closer to the actual science. So I found just cold called, but it was an email to the human resources department of this one organization, this one science based organization. I just said, hey, I've got a script I'd love to have peer reviewed. Somebody look over it and just correct my science. I want to be as accurate as possible. And I know this organization has a lot of like volunteer people. They have like a staff of 5 scientists, like two astrophysicists, a molecular biologist, and one other. They're like 5 or 6 staffers. Didn't think I'd get through to any of them, but they have a team of like 100 supporters that are not quite as versed, or not quite as educated. That don't have all the nut letters pat in their behind their name, but they have enough knowledge to do a fair peer review. Well, it turns out one of those 5 scholars reached out to me, and that's the guy that is now my friend. His name is Jeff. You'll learn his last name when we launch it. So I just wanted to give you a brief heads up about what's coming. So in this first podcast, we're going to talk about how we met. We're going to talk about my script. And then in the next couple of episodes, we're going to talk about a couple of the ideas like artificial intelligence, um, uh, uh, the epiphenomena of consciousness. Is it an epiphenomena? Certain profound theological and scientific notions that arise from this script. And so I've got to read this. I've got to reread my script from a couple years ago so that I'm up to speed on everything that I wrote so we can discuss it. We'll break it into 3 different episodes. There. Share this video if you think anybody out there cares at all, but at least like and subscribe.